Alrighty, this is your 1.01 time and place in history lesson that we did earlier today. But as I was looking at it, I was thinking, wow, this is a lot of information, almost too much information to go through in just one day. And it's a lot of note taking. So we are going to break it up piece by piece. So I know we read through a couple of different things, but one of them I royally messed up and forgot that there is more underneath it. So I'm going to have you click on time and place in history. And the first page tells us the story of humans on Earth. We read this one in class. If we scroll down, there's a video. There's not much on there. But basically, these are all the things you're going to learn by the time we are done. So we are actually going to split this up into historical events and the time periods. We are then going to, next day, we're going to do latitude, longitude. Then we're going to talk about the different types of mapping and then why the 6 essential elements of geography. So we're going to split this up because it is way too much information. So this is part 1 of time and place in history. So when you click on to your next slide, we read up to here. So we said this is what we started with. It's a history. I'm actually going to show you my note taking. So here I put Mrs. H, social studies, today's date, a time and place to history, and our essential question was, how do we mark time? So history is a record of past important events and their causes is what I have just added. And we're going to go back, and there is all this information that we missed, and this part is interactive, so you'll be able to do this on your own. So here it says, so history is a record of past important events and their causes. People existed before writing began, however, and that time is known as prehistory or before history. So why is history important to us today? Because things that happened in the past have shaped the world as we know it. And as the popular saying goes, if we do not learn from history, we are bound to repeat it. Without time, history would not exist. Time divides the past up into different periods. In history, we often talk about groups of things that happen in terms of periods. Just think about important things that have happened during your own history. Birth, you started walking, started talking, you learned the alphabet, started school. A useful way to think about these past events is to use a timeline. Anything that is highlighted, you can actually click on and it'll tell you what a timeline is. It's a visual representation of events from the past, which can be horizontal or vertical. In this case, this one is vertical. Charting out events visually often makes them easier to understand. It also helps to put events in context. Context is the part of something written or spoken near a certain word or group of words that helps to explain the meaning with other things happening in the world. So sometimes charting events, you'll have events down here, and then this is kind of what happened on top. Timelines are read from left to right or top to bottom. Years or other important dates are usually located below the line. Information about the dates appear above the line. Timelines are divided into intervals. So intervals are a period of time between events. Events are shown in chronological order. That means that they are shown in time order. So it starts 2000, 2001, 2002. A timeline of your life would look something like the image shown here. The world has a timeline as well. So much time has passed through history, it is necessary to divide it up to help us understand it. Terms you'll see frequently when discussing years are BCE or BC and CE or AD. AD is what we see the most. BCE means before the Common Era, and CE means Common Era. This way of showing time came about around the 17th century, which should be CE. Year 1, CE, would come directly after year 1 BCE on a timeline. The terms BC and AD, which means before Christ, and Anno Domini, a Latin phrase that shows time after the traditional birth of Christ, can be used in place of BCE and CE. So for example, 1 BCE is also known as 1 BC, and 1 CE is also known as 1 AD. Years before 1 consider BCE, and years after 1 are considered CE. The years in your personal timeline are in the Common Era. There is one key difference between counting in years, BCE and CE. When counting time in BCE, the years decrease, so they go down. So it's like counting down. So you'd go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, and then you start counting up for the Common Era. With these, you can read these chronology. If you click on chronology, it tells you it's a science that deals with measuring time and dating events. A millennium is 1,000 years time period. A century is a 100-year time period. A decade is a 10-year time period. Eras are a period of time beginning or ending with a special date or event. Refer to periods of time, but not specific number of years. And then you have epochs, an event or time that begins a new period of development. So for example, the era of the Roman Empire in Western Europe ended in 476 AD. The epoch of prehistory ended when humans began using writing to record their experiences. So right now I'm going to give you the time. I know we went through that super fast. You can slow this down at any moment in time. I just read it aloud to you so that you can follow along. And then we're going to take our notes. During this time, you can stop the video to do this section. If you just pick it up, just kidding. If you just pick it up right here, there we go. You can move it here, here, here. They're wrong. I'm just showing you that you can move them. Actually, that's right. When you're done doing these, you can click the submit button to see you're correct. Don't move on to the next slide because this is a lot of information. So what we are going to do is in our notes, we have a history. We are then going to include, I think everyone knows what a timeline is and context. We are going to talk about BC and BCE. So we have chronological order, which means it goes in time order, or it's sequenced in time. You have BC or BCE. Remember, BC, I think, was before Christ. And this one is considered before the Common Era. Oops. And you have AD, which is Anno Domini. Some of us like to say after death, but that's how you can remember it. And then you have CE, which is the Common Era. So I'm going to see if I can create, let's see if I can, you guys can draw the picture. I'm going to see if I can just take this and move it over. I'm going to try to paste it in here. Did it work? Yay, it worked. Okay, so with BC or BCE, you are counting down to 0. Kind of like a launch, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's kind of backwards. And then when you start at 0 and you start counting up, you are now in the Common Era or AD. So you will be counting up. It's actually to the present time. So we are in the AD or Common Era side of this. So a couple of things we want to add in our notes too. Let's add the millennium, century, decade. So I think it said a millennium. Oops. Can I spell it? Yep. Millennium is equal to 1,000 years. And I will highlight that. And let's go back and check our notes and see a century. Oops. Century is 100 years. And we'll highlight that one in a different color. And the last one was a decade. which is 10 years. I love the tens, thousands, hundreds, easy when you're dealing with zeros. Okay. And then we have eras. And let's refresh my memory what eras says. It says it is a period of time beginning or ending with a special date or event. Can I highlight that? What? Yes. Is it going to let me? Let's see. Nope. All right, let's try it again. So we have eras. Eras and, oh, it's not going to let me do it. Um, hmm. There we go. All right, so an era is a period of time beginning or ending with a special date or event. I won't put epics in there because it doesn't really have a date. It's just when something major happened. It's an event or time that begins a new period of development. So we're dealing with like the Renaissance, but they called it the Renaissance era. So that's a little bit different. But the main concern is that you understand the difference between millennium, century, and decade, because that's usually how we count down time. The fact that when you start at 1 AD, anything, you have a zero. It's kind of like a timeline in math as well. You have the negative numbers and you have the positive numbers. So you're counting down, and that's BC and BCE. And then when you count up, that is now CE and or AD. We're used to seeing it as AD. So this is going to be the end of the lesson for the day. We are going to split this up. Now, I know that we did this in class already. We're going to combine 3 and 4 together because they're pretty small, but this one is pretty lengthy. So we will do that probably on Friday. So for your small groups, we are going to do just the time and place and how do we mark time. And I have made notes as well. So these notes will be placed in with your lesson.